Coastline family. This is Katie Rollins coming to you with an encouragement from the book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah is a book in the Old Testament, and it's a story of restoration and revival. Nehemiah was a man who stood for change. He also was a man of prayer and of action. During this book, what it tells us is Nehemiah begins with Nehemiah being cupbearer to the king. So he's living in a kingdom in what would seem to be quite comfort. But we realize that he is living in comfort in captivity. He too is not actually in his homeland. When he hears about someone coming from his homeland, he goes and seeks him out and asks, how are the people that have escaped exile? What is the nation looking like? He tells him it's quite bleak. They're burdened and they're sorrowful and their nation is burning. No more wall. At this, it says in verse 4, he sat down, wept, and mourned for days. And then it says, and I continued fasting and praying before the God of heaven. He's broken. And what goes on from verse 5 to 11 and the rest of chapter 1 of Nehemiah is that prayer. He begins by exalting God, calling him who he is, the great and awesome God. And then he confesses the sins of the people, including himself. He says, I and we. And then he repents for those sins. They, as a nation, had gone far from God, and this is what had happened. They're in exile. Their cities are burned to the ground. We can see that our nation is hurting, but our confession and repenting starts with our own hearts, and we have to see ourselves as not only part of the solution, but part of the problem. If our hearts can be changed by the God of heaven, who has the power to change hearts, then we, through his power, can be part of the action for restoration and revival. The rest of Nehemiah is just a beautiful story of God using his people with his power to not only rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, but to make the nation restored. We have an awesome opportunity as God's people to be a change that this nation needs, and how it changes is right here in our hearts, to repent, confess that we too are part of this problem, and then act. Look at the opportunities around us that God is giving us to be part of the solution. Through his power, this nation can change. I do pray for revival, and I pray that you will want to be part of it.